two sons. Both Marines, both were sent to Vietnam. Both were riflemen. My mother constantly wrote me, telling me how she prayed every single day, all night, for her sons to return. I've often felt that her prayers got my brother and I out of Vietnam. That said, my brother, like so many others, never recovered from his experience in Vietnam. I would go on and meritoriously promote twice during my 13-month tour. I would become a team leader and a section leader. During this time, I always tried to retain the values that my parents had taught me. I tried to remember the things that the Marine Corps had taught me. And I tried to pass this on to the people who worked for me. I had a battalion commander who I idolized. His name was Colonel DeLong. He had a policy. We used to call it the positive attitude policy. And the way it worked, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care how bad things got. I don't care how many people died. I don't care how many people were wounded. I don't care if you hadn't eaten in 2 or 3 days. If he walked up to you and asked you how you were doing, you had to say, "Sir, good to outstanding, sir." Now, when I say that was a policy, I don't mean this was a recommendation. I don't mean this was a suggestion. This was policy. You had to say that. But his positive attitude, it had a way with us, because what he was trying to tell us was that if we were going to get out of there alive, we had to believe that we were going to get out of there alive. We had to constantly have a positive attitude. When I left Vietnam, I never stopped thinking about my brothers in arms. I prayed every night for them. There are people who say when they left Vietnam, the only thing that they wanted to do was forget Vietnam. Now, I don't have a problem with that thinking, because everyone deals with hardship, trauma, and pain differently. But for me, I don't want to forget. I want to remember every single thing that happened. I want to remember what we did, what we saw. You know why? Because I want to remember, because that is my small way of honoring the people who are on this wall. The names that are inscribed on this cold, black granite wall. My unit in Vietnam, we're in Vietnam for 4 years. We lost 634 people killed, close to 5,000 wounded in the 4 years. Now, we have a reunion every 2 years. And at that reunion, what we do is we have a roll call, like is being done here today, where we call out the names of every single one of those 634. In addition to high school classmates and the Marines in my unit, I had 12 of the Marines I went to boot camp with killed in Vietnam that are on that wall. So you see, I don't want to forget. I refuse to forget. You see, in my opinion, if we forget, it is like these people on the wall never existed, as if they died in vain. And you see, I couldn't live with myself knowing that they were being forgotten. Now, Vietnam, to say the least, was an unpopular war. And I hate even using the term unpopular, because it's used so much to describe Vietnam. I didn't have some of the nasty experiences that some of my fellow veterans have. Being spit on, name calling, rocks throwing at them. I never had those type of experiences, but I will tell you 2 minor things that happened to me that still sticks with me today. The first was when we were flying back from Vietnam. We had about 300 of us on the airplane, And we were told, once you get on that plane, sit down, and you don't get up. So we all had our blouses on, our jackets. It was hot on the plane. So the flight attendants, we were on a regular commercial airlines. So one of the Marines asked the flight attendant, would she take their jacket for her? She took the jacket, but you can see she did it begrudgingly. She took the jacket. So another Marine asked. Well, this just irritated her. She literally walked away and refused to take any of our jackets, knowing that we could not get up. It was as if we had interrupted this nice little world of hers, and that we were upsetting her apple cart. Another thing that happened, again, minor in comparison to what some of the Vietnam veterans here went through, was that going home, I'm hitchhiking on a lonely road, dark road. I think it was 20 minutes before a car came by. I'm hitchhiking, I'm in uniform, I have my sea bag on my back, and finally I see a car. And I'm just so happy. Here's the car. Again, this is the 60s in Louisiana. Car pulls up, I can see it's a bunch of teenage kids in it. They pull up about 30, 40 feet from me. So they scream out the car, hey, you want to ride? And I go, sure. They said, hurry up, we're in a hurry. So I started running. So here I'm in uniform, I'm running, I have my sea bag on my jacket, on my back. They waited till right till I got to the bumper. They stepped on the gas, and they just spewed rocks, dirt, trash all over me and my uniform. And I could hear them laughing as they were pulling away. You know, again, it's nothing compared to what some people went through. But it's something that I never forgot. One of the things that Vietnam veterans do, you may have noticed, and this little thing we have, and I'll tell you why, because the only thing I really know when I arrived home from Vietnam, and I'm sure every Vietnam veteran in this room can agree with me on this. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when I arrived home on the airplane, I didn't have anyone standing there with a flag. I didn't have anyone cheering me. I didn't have anyone smiling, telling me what a great job I've done. But you know what? Just like all the Vietnam veterans here and myself, we got through it. But you know what we do now? When a Vietnam veteran greets another Vietnam veteran, we say, welcome home. We say, welcome home, because that's our way. Because we never received a welcome home, we compensate by welcoming each other. That is our greetings. That is what our brotherhood and sisterhood does, because we put it behind us and we moved on. One of the things I learned in Vietnam is that politicians, or the powers to be, always make the call when it comes to war. But what we learned also is that ordinary men and women, without fail, will always answer that call, regardless. Again, in my opinion, the powers to be have to understand, and this is one of the things we learned in Vietnam: if you don't want to go to war to win, if you don't want to go to war in full force, then don't go.